If you have anything to do with the outdoors in Eastern Kings, chances are you have already or will run into Fred Cheverie.
I was born in East Point, John and Rose Cheverie. John has since passed on. There were 3 boys and 2 girls raised in the family. Attended East Point School, grew up in a mixed farm at Cheverie High School. Eventually went to university, picked up a couple of degrees, became a school teacher, taught Cheverie Consolidated School for 31 years, married 38 years, got 3 adult children and a bunch of grandchildren.
Since 2005, the retired school teacher has been the coordinator for the Surrey and area branch of the PEI Wildlife Federation. But his passion for helping create a pristine environment goes back further than that.
Number one, growing up in the farm, there wasn't much to do in East Point in those days going through. So we spent a lot of time playing in the woods and that kind of stuff. Our cows, our milk cows, were pastured about half a mile or so from home and had to go up a wood road. So every morning after milking, cows had to be taken out to the field in the evening. They had to be taken home overnight to pasture closer to home. And so you got a lot of time to spend looking at wildlife, eating every kind of berry that was existed. And I was doing my practice teaching at Charlton Rural High School. Chester Gillett ended up being my mentor, and Chester was teaching an outdoor education course at the time, and I just totally, I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed that. That was just like, wow. And so with that, I came to Cheverie Consolidated and started teaching your typical subjects. My principal, Roger Sullivan, came to me, and they were having some discipline problems and motivation problems too at grade 7 and 8 level, and wondered if I could, any thoughts in terms of developing a course that would be more hands-on and more locally focused. So from that, with the help of other teachers, we developed a course called Ecology. So doing that, like you can research something, you can study something, but you never really learn something until you have to teach it to somebody else.
Teaching brought him to the attention of the local wildlife group, and it was receiving a conservation award that gave him a little extra push to become involved at the community level.
I was pretty impressed with that, and so obviously it didn't take long. I became a volunteer probably the late 70s, and pretty well straight volunteer with them. There might have been a few years off there for some years, but mostly a volunteer with them for 35 years or more.
When he retired from teaching school, the opportunity came up for Mr. Cheverie to take on a greater role in the organization.
They kind of said, well, you retired, friend, you live in here, and you're a retired school teacher, something that you kind of like doing anyway, so take it over. So that's how it all happened. I always say the priest pond. It was always just kind of hanging on, just like a candle was going to go out just with a few salmon every year, probably anywhere from 3 to 7 salmon reds per year. And last year, after 9 years, we had 150 salmon reds. And streams that you walk in 8-10 years ago, and now you walk in, might have been silty back then, and now it's nice, beautiful color bottom and things of that nature. That would probably, to me, if there is a success story, that'd be one of the things I'm most proud of. Getting the Atlantic salmon, getting their numbers coming back to, that's quite a success story. I took the average of the salmon reds over the past 6 years, and last year's numbers increased by 260%.
While the Federation's mandate is to improve the watershed area, Mr. Cheverie said they certainly don't do it alone.
We did some watershed planning where we met with the stakeholders from many watersheds, especially Surrey, Basin Head, North Lake, Priest Pond. And in those meetings you have with the public, you got to experience the pride, the passion that the people in the community held for the natural beauty in their area. We had a program, with several programs, attempting to do things within the agricultural industry, but one of them was called, it was a pilot project we ran in the Surrey area. It was called Ecological Goods and Services, and it encouraged farmers to do some environmentally best management practices on their farm, and try to introduce a comprehensive package for land uses in your land. The program ended. Many of the farmers just kept on doing the same practices, so that was great. But it also, the province saw what we were doing, and they moved in and took some of these practices and introduced them across the island. And just working with the farmers too. Hard-working, honest, taught me an awful lot, and to get an understanding of the trials and tribulations, the problems that they face on a daily basis of trying to make a living, but at the same time trying to incorporate the best environmentally friendly practices they possibly can at the time.
Farming aside, the biggest saltwater marsh on the island, built with the financing from Surrey Harbour Authority, is another success story.
It's becoming a bit of a success story. It definitely has created a better channel there. We've got some fish coming up there that we didn't have back then. We're getting some sediment attached. We're getting cordgrass and bulrushes moving out over this marsh, and as a result, it'll take a long time, but it is working.
Mr. Cheverie, who recently turned 64, claims his time running the show is coming to an end, but there's no doubt he will still be roaming the streams of Eastern Kings for a long time yet.
I'll never leave. I'll just be somewhere back there,